Call of Duty World at War was released on November 10th, 2008. This was one of my many early installments in the Call of Duty lineup. World at War was one of my first Call of Duty experiences. Technically it was BO1, but I'll talk about that once we get there. Even though I was just a young lad, I still remember that awesome yet terrifying feeling of playing the various modes. From the horrifying zombies, single player experience, tense main menu music, and chaotic multiplayer, this was one of the various Call of Duty games that earned praise from fans of the series and others. Today we will be doing something special. Can we beat the campaign with pistols only? Well, let's find out together. Before we kickstart the challenge, let's dive into the rules. Starting things off, we must use pistols only. There are a variety of pistols to use, with there being about 5 in total. You'll have to hope certain missions start with them and/or they are easily accessible from the start. The game will be played on the veteran difficulty, aka the most difficult option. Next, we must beat the game. There are over 10 plus missions, so it'll be interesting to see how things fare. Lastly, glitches and/or exploits are allowed, so expect some cheeky ways to take down enemies and get around areas. The Call of Duty series varies in its quality. This time period of games I really enjoyed. Because of this, I wanted to continue the pistols only challenge that I started on Republic Commando game. Check that out if you are interested. Plan to go through more of these games. Let me know if this is something you'd like to see. This is a disclaimer because even though this game may be 10 plus years old, pick some tough war scenarios, images, and phrases that took place in World War II. Viewer discretion is advised. Make sure to smash the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. Without further ado, let's get into the run. Before loading into our first mission titled Semper Fi, Call of Duty World at War gives the player a unique approach to storytelling within a video game, drawing from real-life footage and using animations to further illustrate how horrifying World War II was. Sure, I will talk a lot more about these cutscenes later onwards. Playing as Private Miller, we awake in a Japanese camp held as prisoners, with death imminent. Fortunately for us, American forces storm the beach and a fight breaks loose. Right off the bat, the game starts us with a pistol, which is excellent and allows us to get right into the fight. One thing that the veteran difficulty will do is that enemies are insanely damaging and throw 824 grenades per mission. That is an underestimate. Seriously though, I won't spoil some of the later missions, but oh gosh, this was a tough challenge to say the least. One thing that I started to take note of quickly was how fast I was running out of ammunition. Pistols, strangely, are quite uncommon in this game. It seems to me there are only a couple of places to find them. Very, very rarely laying on a table, bed, or something else. Most of the time, I'd find the pistols when an enemy was half alive, crawling away, and then would pull it out in a last-ditch effort, basically last stand. This was going to be tricky to work around. Ultimately, after getting ambushed and lighting a fuel tank, we make it to the end of the first mission. This was but a taste of what was to come. Already, it was damn difficult. The second mission has one of my favorite Easter eggs in the game. One awesome thing about this mission is that we start with a pistol, similarly to the first mission. It'll be tough once we don't start with one and have to scramble around to find one. On the beach, the player can spot various holes caused by mortar rounds. The player jumps in these holes in a specific manner, then a ray gun will be given. While technically this is a wonder weapon rather than a pistol, the player holds it in one hand, so it could almost be interpreted as one. Regardless, we will need the ray gun's damage for tanks and other heavy armor since we are not using other weaponry. I gotta talk about this next thing. There's that meme where in certain games the AI won't kill each other and the player is left to do basically everything by themselves. This is that sort of game. Certain objectives won't be completed until the player takes down all the enemies, rather than waiting it out for allies to take them down or running past them. Because of this, it meant I was going to need to really dial in, sparing ammo, and picking off the right targets. As we go through the trenches and the structures set around the beach, we push the enemy forces back. This is when enemies throwing grenades start to become extremely apparent and meant I had to be extra careful and note my positioning. At the top of the enemy stronghold, orders are given to the player to eliminate enemy tanks in the area. Ray gun was able to effectively take them down in a few shots. And yeah, if I was just using just normal pistols for this, yeah, I don't think I'd be able to get through their armor. Fortunately, as the mission ends and hope is growing within the soldiers, the enemy infantry storms in and stabs Sullivan, one of the company's leaders in command. The beginning of the third mission has such a somber yet terrifying feeling treading over the player, till bam, one of the down planes explodes from a booby-trapped explosive. Similarly to the previous missions, the player starts with a pistol, and is one of the better options in my opinion. From its higher rate of fire to its other counterparts, alongside a sweet reload animation, you can't go wrong with a 1911. With there being over 10 plus missions in the game, 15 to be exact, I'll not be covering everything in this video, as there are hours and hours of content. Rather, if you'd like to see everything in this challenge run, alongside others I post, head over to the VODs channel. Here I post streams and highlights. Let's get it up to 200 subs. During the mission, the Grim Reaper visited me a few times. Well, more than a few times to be exact. This was when shit really started to hit the fan, and from every direction. Constant enemy grenades and rifle fire forced me to bunker down. When a new grenade volley came my way, I would have to relocate to a safer section where another grenade would be patiently waiting for me. Needless to say, I was having a bit of a rough time. After progressing a bit, unfortunately, the game forces the player to use a flamethrower to destroy an enemy bunker. I attempted to use just the pistol, hoping the red barrels would suffice, but no, it did not. Though unfortunately, we did have to use a non-pistol. But this is just one instance, right? Not even 20 minutes later, this game forces the player to use a bazooka and then an AA turret to defeat the waves of enemies, the end section of the mission. Dear gosh, that end section, it was unnecessarily difficult. I would hop on the AA turret and get like insta-killed, like milliseconds. This section alone took an extremely long time. Eventually, I had to get good and cheese the system. Vendetta marks the start of the Russian missions alongside a grueling intro cutscene. Reznov whispers to the player to stay quiet and with him. Then we are given a sniper, the only weapon in this mission.
Victory!
Afterwards, the player and Reznov need to escape as German troops try to burn the building while we are still in it. This strangely was a difficult section and took multiple attempts. It is unfortunate that an entire mission, the player is unable to find and locate a pistol. Now, there could have been a few possibilities to obtain one, such as shooting an enemy in the knee. Hopefully they go into last stand and pull out a pistol. Well, since we were given a sniper, even a knee/leg shot will still one-shot or at least dismember them. So yeah, that's a no-go. Let's skip the rest of this mission. The next mission was a much needed change of pace, as the player starts with a pistol. The downside is that when I think of how grenade spammy the enemies get in this game, I think of this in the final few missions. This was just a small introduction to when there's 20 plus enemies and them respawning, throwing grenades, rinse and repeat. Needless to say, I had to trial and error this section until eventually I found a decent strategy, or just got plain lucky. I found it is necessary to take the left path, since a frontal assault was instant death and the right path was blocked. Pushing forward, we come across German tanks, and oh, I am the only soldier capable of taking down the tanks. No other soldier is able to pick up the Panzerschreck. Well, another mission where the player can't use pistols only. I think by now it's apparent that World at War can't be beaten with just pistols only, unlike a majority of Republic Commando. Let's start to track the missions that can and can't be beaten this way, and it'll be interesting to see. The next 3 missions I'm going to talk about together, since all of them the player is not given a pistol, and I never was able to find a pistol during them. 2 missions of this, I would often try and shoot an enemy in the lower leg, but they would not drop any. Mentioned how rare finding a pistol is in the campaign. Found maybe less than 5 total across the whole campaign. This is not including picking up weapons off of enemy corpses, rather just finding them on desks and such. In the 3rd mission, the player switches back to the Russian perspective and is given a tank. Quite a fun mission, but holy crap was it difficult and arduous. Yeah, another 3 more missions that we were unable to use any pistols. Ring of Steel has the Russians push the Germans further back. Fortunately, we were given a pistol in this mission, so let's talk about it. First is that there is a plethora of enemies scattered about, with some having insane positioning with MG turrets. I do really conserve my ammo and pick off targets, since generally they were out of the pistol's ideal range. Patiently pushing through and bunkering up in one of the buildings helped to hold off enemy forces. Second, the player and his comrades must storm the asylum. Those who have played the early Zombies map, they will know this place all too well. Zombies has been such a fun game mode. Some of the newer maps, in my opinion, have lost their touch with what zombies were meant to be. Another thing is that the new maps have gotten extremely tedious, even for some of the smaller Easter eggs. Regardless, I find myself coming back to play World at War, BO1, and BO2 for the zombies, every now and then. Maybe in the future, I'll take a few days to stream zombie shenanigans if you guys are interested. The asylum in the campaign is surrounded and filled with what felt like 300 plus German troops that I single-handedly needed to take out. This was going to be an extreme battle, to say the least. Thirdly, as I was going through the asylum, even though I was picking my shots and trying to get a pistol from enemies, I had as much success as you might think. The RNG gods did not favor me today. Even though we did make it through a majority of the mission, we still have to count it as a non-doable mission for pistols only. Such a shame. In the next mission, Eviction, the Russians pushed the Germans further back, sweep through building to building. I surprisingly got extremely lucky and was able to pry a pistol from an enemy. Now we will have 2 pistols to use. I should mention that not every time the player shoots an enemy in the leg, they will drop a pistol. Sometimes they will cling to a grenade till the player is up close, or they will just pass away after a few seconds. Either way, it's not guaranteed. It was interesting going through the building settings and seeing the architecture and the limitations of the 360 console. While this game has definitely been dated a bit, it's far from the worst looking game and still holds up quite well. Pushing forward onto the streets, this is when things really started to get difficult. From enemies up high in sniper positions to enemies on the ground throwing grenades, this was not going to be easy. I had to cheese this area quite a bit, from popping up and down, shooting enemies, to strategically finding a position where I couldn't be shot. Even so, enemies would constantly replenish their forces whenever I'd defeat one. It was a battle of attrition, with it mostly being a battle of how much ammo I could use without switching to a non-pistol. The last section in this mission has the player choose to go down the left or right subway path. Both brought unique enemy placements, such as MG turrets, snipers, and respawn points. Must have died at least 20 plus times in this section. Let me just roll the clips now. Yeah, that was quite demanding. That wasn't even the worst mission yet. Even though Black Cats is on a plane, I have to just talk about the jams that play in the background. Like, dang, the sound crew did not have to go this hard for us, but I'm certainly glad they did. I think the best moment is when the player is switching through the various guns, music quiets down to then explode with a string of chords, which is really neat.
Good job, Going in for another run. Echo that. Shit! Anyone see Black Cats on that front pass? We can take out those fucking PT balls! That's a hit! We got smoke coming from our number 2 engine! Japanese PT balls!
Following Black Cats, the next mission has the player infiltrate a heavily fortified Japanese bunker. Starting off, the player is given a non-pistol, so right off the bat, we were not going to be able to count this mission. I did end up obtaining one, but not until halfway through, and even then, I would rarely find ammo for it. Saying the bunker was a nightmare is an understatement to say the least. There are two paths, one on the left and right. The bunker has a machine gun turret emplacements, alongside constantly respawning enemies. Let's roll the clips. Nearly an hour plus later, I managed to push through the bunker and eventually finish the mission. Yeah, that was something. The final mission for the Pacific Front has the player storm a castle and force a surrender. This is yet another mission where the player is not given a pistol at the start, so we are not going to be counting this mission. I ended up collecting a pistol shortly afterwards, but still. Going from building to building, the death toll racks up on both sides. In the end, we get to the front of the castle, where the sergeant and Polanski are engaged in hand-to-hand combat. Whichever enemy the player shoots, the other enemy will kill your ally. I ended up saving Polanski, which resulted in the Sarge being killed. You won't forget your sacrifice, Roebuck. The last two missions in the campaign I'll talk about together, since they both involve the Russians pushing the Germans further back into the heart of Germany. In both of these missions, the player is not given a pistol from the start. That is unfortunately a lot of the missions in this game. Can't be beaten with just a pistol. Even with using normal weapons, trying to get through these areas was demanding. There were enemies constantly spawning and non-stop grenades being thrown, so I had to switch positions frequently. Part of the Reich ends on a sad note, with one of the main Russian troops dying as we stormed the main building. Chernov's journal was then picked up by Reznov, who vowed to read his stories. Pushing the enemies into the theater and seeing the various enemies everywhere, I knew instantly that this was going to be a hell of a fight. It was awesome as well, since there were a few PTRS sniper rifles within the theater, which meant for some satisfying kills. Ultimately, we get to the top of the theater and raise the flag, thus finishing the game. Reznov shares some final words of encouragement, and then the screen turns black. Final thing you will see in World at War is the dark truth of how many lives were lost during the war. As the Zombies match is playing, let's talk about the runs as a whole, analyzing and reflecting on the challenge run. Can you beat Call of Duty World at War with pistols only? Well, no, as there were only a handful of missions that could be completed with pistols only. Pistols were rarely found in the game, with the majority of those found being enemies in Last Stand. Pistols were quite effective when given to the player. Even though they may not have the range of a rifle or a scope for more accurate shots, they were able to effectively accomplish their tasks. In the campaign, I used but all one pistol, since I was never able to locate one, the revolver. For veteran difficulty in the game is not something to joke about. From spammy grenade enemies to millisecond deaths by popping my head up, this was no easy feat beating the campaign. While we were forced to use non-pistols for a majority of the missions, getting through the game was still extremely difficult. This is definitely one thing, if you haven't done, is beat this game on veteran difficulty or even just beat it. I highly recommend you try. Let me know down below, did you enjoy this challenge and video? Do you like to see more? I have the next 2 COD pistol challenges recorded, but I've been hesitant to continue since I want to see how everyone enjoys these videos. The Republic Commando video was a success, and so I'm thinking this one would be as well. Regardless, I'm curious to hear your thoughts below. Thank you for watching the video. Make sure to hit the like button, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. This greatly helps to support me and the channel, alongside pushing the video to others who may be interested. Try to do something kind for someone today, whether it's a small or large gesture. This is your boy Skilled Fawn, and I'm out.